It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Yo, man. Boom, Miss Rusty. What is happening, everybody? Welcome to the podcast, the Public Access Podcast here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, QGBN, with other great shows such as When the Gloves Come Off, the Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is It with Lizzie and Say By the Bed. This is brought to you by Stoner Eats Productions, Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Hardcore Entertainment, Hypnosis is Great, and sockemup.org. Welcome, everybody. It's Monday, and it's good. It's good. Good Monday, getting going early. Found a thing of Corningware. This 8, no, not 8. There's an 8, but this was a 9. There's also a 9 cup Corningware percolator, and I got it for $1, $1.50. Yeah, worked out pretty nice. So I just cleaned that stuff up today. I got it at a church sale. It's cool. I'll make a few dollars on that. I tried to get away from that stuff, try to get away from reselling stuff, but it just keeps coming back, especially in the summer with garage sales. I just want to buy and flip stuff now. And now I feel like I can teach people if they need to, but there's so many other people doing it. It's not worth it to make it full time. So that's why we're doing this a lot more. So today, to not have anything to do with what I'm talking about right now, I want to bring on a special guest because it's Monday. And my special guest right here, right now. And that special guest is going to be joining us soon. And that special guest is Gabrielle Crichlow. How you doing?
I'm all right. How are you?
Pretty good, thank you. It's it's Monday. I like my Mondays, and I hope you do too. I hope you get to enjoy it being Monday.
I mean, Mondays is usually a tough day, so starting the week is always. I don't know what it is about Mondays, and just it's like I had today happens to be a federal holiday. It's Juneteenth. It's a little bit different, but normally Monday it's like starting over from slowing down. So Mondays is usually like, I don't want to do anything. But then it's like Tuesday, it's like, okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah. And does that last all the way till Friday or Saturday or whatever day, or does that momentum keep going?
It's I think from I would say so. I think Tuesday to Friday, the momentum starts going. Actually, no, let me change that. I would say, excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you. Tuesday through Thursday, I would say that's where the momentum is. And then Friday, that's when it starts to slow down. Because it's like, okay, it's the end of the week.
Yeah.
So it's like a weird little bell curve.
Yeah. And then everyone just sort of goes for it. And and then so you got today off because of Juneteenth.
Yes.
Is it so it's federal holiday now? Is that correct?
Yes, became a federal holiday 2 years ago, I think.
Okay.
2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, one day it showed up on my phone, on my calendar, and then that's when I learned. I didn't know about it until probably, I think, when that came up. I did not know. I have a buddy that's from Houston, and he told me what it was, but I had nothing. I'm from Oregon, and it wasn't anything that was ever taught to us. So it's kind of odd, but yeah, it's I guess interesting thing. But
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate because even I myself didn't know about it until a few years ago. So it's coming up in conversation. And now that it's a federal holiday, now everyone knows about it pretty much.
Yeah. So are you from somewhere up north then?
Yes, I'm in New York right now.
Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, didn't make it in the way to the schools up north too much, I guess. You're probably, yeah, somewhere my age range, I guess, somewhere probably in there, but
My age, I'm 35. How old are you?
okay. Yeah, I'm 40. So yeah, it's in that same ballpark.
There
And
in the circle. Yeah, it's
yeah,
close together.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and so yeah, it just wasn't something that was ever really taught. And I mean, it's interesting how it just didn't. I mean, how that even happened, how the whole just, I mean, of not knowing that,
Not
whatever
knowing.
that it was done. But
I think it's I think it's a couple things, and this is my opinion. One, I think um the the information was kind of kept among Black people, so it wasn't really shared publicly um until like maybe in recent years. So it was kind of like an internal thing among Black people. Um, but I think as I guess Black people started entering more of like the public sector, so more they're showing up, like there's more Black teachers and there's more demand for Black teachers and more demand for Black history being taught in schools. Now it's being explained um, to more kids. So not just Black kids, but different races as well, white, Asian. And I think the more that it's being put out there into the mainstream, the more that it's being brought up. And I think um, now that it's in the mainstream, now it's all out there. Another thing I think is because um, there is so now that it's being out there, there is an attempt by white supremacy to hide that, to not put that out there. So because it's a reflection of the past, of the slavery era, of Jim Crow, and just frankly not having Black history in the mainstream.
right.
So and kind of keeping white history and the white views in the mainstream
Yeah,
and teaching that to their kids. So
and we all know how well it goes when people try to hide things that happen in history.
right.
It just happens right again in one way or another. And so, I mean, yeah, it's something that should be, um, it's good that it's not even just regionally, that it's, yeah, it's not just, yeah, kind of in the, oh, I don't know what area, I guess call it the South, but the South is kind of a broader term. But yeah, the fact that it's being able to be put out, because yeah, it's something that, I mean, there's such weird things that didn't remember, like there was a thing recently that I found out, about, well, was it, I think it was World War I. Um, and then like one of the reasons that we went to war was, there was the sinking of the Lusitania, but then there was also in New York, there was a munitions depot that the Germans bombed that I had never heard of until I think a year ago. And that was part of it that happened. Now, I don't know how I missed that. I, very much studied history. And then also with, Juneteenth, there was just something that just didn't even, anything really even popped up. And yeah, it's odd what people want to teach, and if they don't, why they don't want that to be out, I guess, is usually more the question for me. But
Right. And it's it's not just, Black history, but it's also like Jewish history as well. And I'm sure like with Asian history as well, like anything that goes against white supremacy, it tends to, especially white supremacy being in positions of power in government, I think it tends to get squashed or lowered down. But I think because as a sense of, you don't want people to know the truth, and you want people to believe your truth. Um, but but then the thing about hiding things, right, is, whatever you hide, eventually it comes out. So
Yep.
so that's it's coming out in pieces, but there's ways that it's still coming out, and people are writing books, and I think now that podcasting has blown up, maybe in the past, maybe like 5 years. Now, podcasting, I think, was around for like 10 years or so. But then because of the pandemic, it's really just exploded. And now with the writer's strike, and it, exploded even more. Now more people are talking about it, and more of those things are being put out. So I think because of the evolution of technology, so because of social media, and now there's all these, Facebook lives and Instagram lives, and now Twitter has its own lives, and YouTube lives, and podcasting, and now there's all this open forum. More of that information is being talked about, and it's more out there. And I think now that there's all of these platforms that are being created at such an exponential rate, more of that hidden information that people don't want you to know, more of that is being put out there. So while there's a constant attempt to suppress history, there's also a constant attempt to release history. So while it might be suppressed in public schools, it's being put out there more in social media, in books, in conference talks.
right.
So, I mean, it is, you can live your whole life and not know what happened, which is the sad truth. But
Yeah. But and I like that, people are going out of the way to learn about kind of anything, and not having to, be just on the small box of what we learn in school. And I mean, there's a lot to learn, and we have so much of a larger uh, open access to information. I mean, we had to learn how to use microfilm or the Dewey Decimal System, or learning how to get articles from magazines, and then going in, or old publications, and be able to cite these things. And I don't know if with AI, if it's going to be able to pick up on some other stuff that maybe has slid under the rug more, and be able to read between the lines on some things. And maybe pull out some information that we still don't really know about as well. And I don't know.
I mean, I think with my understanding of AI, I guess I'd want to know more about where it came from. Like, did someone create it? I would think someone invented it. But with that, in order for AI to develop, it needs information from human input, right? So
Right.
whatever whatever AI is putting out, it's based on what other people have said and what other people have published. And because it's I don't know if it's such a new thing, but it goes back to the white supremacy. I don't know if it's white supremacy, but the information that it's not, it doesn't, it's sometimes AI, it doesn't recognize the voices of people of color.
How
So,
so?
um, I'm trying to, like, this is from what I've heard, but
Sure.
um, so it may not pick up, because again, it's human input, right? So it may not pick up certain lingo, right? Or certain words that Black people tend to say, um, or Asians tend to say, or Jewish people tend to say. So it may not pick up um, certain cultural terms, certain norms, words in other languages. So, but all that is, but the more feedback that we put into it, the more that it learns.
Yeah.
That's
And
basically what it is. Yeah.
yeah. And if it's in there, I mean, if people have written about it, I mean, it has access to literally everything. So, I mean, it's learning at a speed we can't even imagine. Um, I don't think it'll take too long for that to catch up and not even. And then plus, it also has a lot of limitations on what you can say and cannot say and ask it to do. I mean, especially with chat GPT and stuff of that nature.
Right. And it's also, just to jump back in, but
Sure.
it's white people, for the most part, it's white people programming AI, right?
Yeah.
So of course it's going to recognize white terms and white language. So something like which goes into a deeper issue of there's not a lot of there's not a lot of racial representation in the science fields. So something like, I saw something about, like in like the public bathrooms with the automatic
Oh,
like
the
the sinks with
hand
the
thing or the
water.
soap
Yeah,
or yeah.
right. So like I saw a story about it's less likely to pick up darker skin, when you put your hand under the spout and the water comes out. It's less likely to pick up darker skin, and which is interesting. And
Yeah.
of course, it's so what does that mean? Because it's programmed to recognize lighter skin,
Right.
right?
And same with pictures,
Right.
photos and stuff of that nature usually is set in that way too. And
Right.
that the focus will usually be on whatever the lightest subject is in the picture. And it usually, makes whatever darker complexion, hard to not focused on the same as well.
Right. So or yeah, so like the apps where you have to scan your face, right? It's less likely to pick up a darker skin tone. Excuse me. So because all these programs were programmed by people with lighter skin tones, right? So of course it's
Yeah.
going to pick those up first, right? So, I mean, and it goes into a deeper issue of, there's not a lot of representation of darker skin tones, in these fields. And now it has to learn that, right? So, and it's systemic. It's all what it is. But I think the more that we put ourselves out there, the more noise that we make, and the more that we demand representation and the more that we demand change, the more things will improve.
So why do you think there isn't as much representation in the science field?
I mean, it's improving now, but I think before, I think it's a lot of things. So I think it's under education. I think there's not a lot of there's not a lot of trying to figure out how to frame my answer, but I think there's not a lot of like STEM classes and in lower income schools, which unfortunately is populated mostly by people of color. So I think there's not a lot of STEM classes. There's not a lot of like even tools like the microscopes, stethoscopes, all that. So it's not a lot of resources, I think, in the lower income schools, which, like I said, is populated mostly by people of color. And I think not a lot of education about it. And basically it's not a lot of knowledge about it. And I think also within, I would say there's also like psychological trauma within communities of color, in that, it's parents telling their kids like, this world was not made for you. So, stick to a service job, stick to this job because you're not going to get it. You're not going to get this job because of your skin color. And I think that trauma has carried throughout generations. And so, like it's parents telling kids that, you're not going to get it because of your skin color. You're not going to get it because of this. You're not going to get it because of that. And so stick to what you know, stick to what you can get. And that trauma, unfortunately, carries throughout generations. So it's psychological trauma. It's lack of education in schools, lack of resources. And it's also a lot of money behind these things. There's also a lot of money behind science. And so and that goes into income. Can you afford to access these things, right? So, which it also goes into income, resources. So it's systemic in that it's income, it's resources, but it's also personal in that, it's parents telling their kids, there's no resource, there's no help for you. There's no help for you. So stick to what you know. And it carries throughout generations.
I mean, that seems like something that needs to change.
Yeah.
I mean,
it is changing. I will
there's
say.
I mean, yeah, like a mindset's going to put you into, self-fulfilling prophecies if
Mhm.
that's all that you can do. And then, I mean, so do you think that it's, public school funding is what you're getting at? Or are you talking like people going to college where it's, or as far as, not being able to have the proper funding, is that public schooling or?
Um, that's one part of it. there's lack of funding in public schools, but it also depends on the neighborhood that you're in. So how much funding a school gets depends on the neighborhood that you're in, and the neighborhood that you're in, is determined by the income of the people living there. So if you're in a neighborhood where most of the people are poor, the schools in those neighborhoods are not going to get a lot of resources, right? Unless you're in a neighborhood where most of the people are wealthy, right? Then those
Right.
schools in those neighborhoods will also have more access to resources, right?
Right.
So, and that goes into, how is it determined that these neighborhoods are poor and these neighborhoods are wealthier, right? And then that also goes back into redlining, and it's 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 a whole thing, right? So it's Congress determining, what part of the area to support and what part of an area not to support, and so and all that to boost their morale, right? And all that to just boost their chances of winning elections, right? So you
Right.
pick and choose your areas, right? And then those are the areas and of course, it's areas that's the lower income areas tend to be mostly people of color. So it's a ripple effect, so if you happen to be in this area that doesn't get a lot of resources, and and you happen and mostly people of color, they have lower income jobs, right? They're going to live in those areas that are lower income. And those are the schools that they send their kids to, which are in those areas, which don't get a lot of resources. And then therefore they don't know about college, or they're less likely to go to college because the parents don't have the money to pay for college, or they have to, if they happen to get a scholarship, but they have to apply for the scholarships, they have to be lucky, or they have to take out student loans, which later affect their credit. So it's like one thing after another.
So you said that you think that some people don't know about college. Is that what you said? Was that part of it? What you said there? Did I get that wording right?
Well, it's either don't know about college, or which is let me just change that a little bit.
Sure.
I'm sure there's very few people that don't know about college, but the rest is either they can't afford it, or they have to take out student loans, or they're lucky enough to get a scholarship. So, or maybe a lot of the time they go through community college first because
Yeah.
it's cheaper. And then they transfer to the 4-year college later on. As opposed to just jumping to the 4-year college right away.
Which
Which
I don't know. I don't see the point in jumping into a 4-year. It's money wise.
yeah,
It makes a lot more sense to do the 2 years, and then get the transfer and spend, much, I can't even imagine what it is now. 20 years ago was different, but yeah, now, I can't even, I don't even want to take a guess how much it costs between, a 2-year community college or going to university. But so then let me ask another question. So if the funds, if they had unlimited funds for the public schooling, where would that money best be spent? What would be the best way to advance whoever needs?
unlimited funding. Well, unlimited funding and even distribution you're talking about, because even if it was even if it was unlimited funding, it would still be unevenly distributed. So assuming it's even distribution, it would definitely go towards, and again, this is all my opinion, but it would go towards, I think, a meal program for kids, because a lot of the schools that are in the poorer neighborhoods, those families, they may not be able to afford food often. So I think it would go towards having meals for kids. Um, it would go towards paying the teachers better, I think, because the more that teachers are paid, the more likely they are to do their jobs really well. Um, it will go towards um, supplies in the classroom. It would go towards funding clubs, after school clubs. It will go into arts and music. They wouldn't be cutting art or cutting music. It would go towards improving gym facilities. It would go towards, um, it would go in even just the infrastructure of the building, right? It
Right.
would go towards, nicer bricks and a water fountain and lights and paint and painting the walls and fixing windows and air conditioning. Um, it would go to, there might be an outside garden where kids can plant. Um, it would go towards, it would go towards, it could probably, it would also go towards making this, making the schools themselves bigger so that, they can take on more students. So more land for the school itself, or more buildings being made. And I think because there would be unlimited funding for schools, there would be more partnerships with schools.
What do you mean?
So more like, actually, no, let me take that back. Because if it's unlimited funding, there would be less likely that schools would have to outsource. So then everything would be in-house.
Outsource what?
So things like tutoring, for example. A lot of the times, it's schools referring parents to companies outside, which is where I come in. But if it was unlimited funding, everything would be in-house. So there would be, which might work against me, but everything would be in-house, right? You need tutoring, you come to the school, right? And if teachers are paid more, right, they're likely to work more, and so they might take up those extra hours, right? And there's that opportunity for overtime and bonuses, and they might tutor out their kids after school more, knowing that they can get paid more, right? So there would
Right.
be more things in-house. And let's see what else. Like even meal programs, they're getting it from companies outside. So the companies outside, they're partnering with the schools to provide the food. But if everything was in-house and unlimited funding, they would hire cooks and they would cook in the school facility, in the school kitchens, as opposed to having, it's either, well, I think the food is like prepared meals that they're bringing in. So it's kind of meals that are like in trays or in boxes that they're bringing that in, as opposed to being cooked on site. So if it was unlimited funding, more food would be cooked on site, and
Oh,
schools would hire cooks.
so they're not cooking stuff on site anymore? or at some of the places they're doing it and bringing it in?
I think so.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
well, I think it also depends on like the poor, like the schools with less resources.
Sure.
They're bringing it in like prepared, as opposed to the schools with more resources. They're cooking it on site.
And then do you think the quality of food goes up? I, I worked as a cook at a Montessori school, and I was pushing for, to partner with a local farmers and stuff of that nature to be able to have better food. But these kids just wanted to eat garbage. Like they didn't want that. I pitched it, and it would have cost less money,
Mhm.
but they, kids will eat what they want to eat. I don't have any kids, so I don't really, I don't know. But yeah, kids seem to eat what they want to eat, and then that's just seems like the way to go. But and I mean, and then during the summer, then there's not that availability of that lunch either. And then some places their park programs will do something, as far as giving out lunches during the summer. But even then, I mean, yeah, then that's still needs to be funded. And
Right, because when you have the supplemental meal programs, right, it's especially during the summer, it's food in a box, right? It's a
right.
wrapped up sandwich, it's carrots in a little bag, it's the pouch drinks, right? And it's just here's a box of food, you know. But as opposed to with if there was unlimited funding, there would be cooks. They would cook the food on site. It would be on a nice plate, right? It wouldn't be in a box. It would be a nice display, and there'll be a knife and a fork, so it's not a plastic spork, So yeah, it would be, I mean, I'm sure that when they'll have to be realistic about, do they really want to wash all them dishes? But the more money, more problems. But yeah, but I think it'll be a nicer display, and it would be cooked food. There would be more options for food. Because there's a lot of dietary restrictions, and they can, for the kid who's vegetarian, they can't eat like the turkey or the chicken, so it has to be vegetables. So there would be more options for the people that don't eat meat, more healthier options. So as opposed to just, well, you won't get the turkey sandwich, here's, I don't know, here's tofurkey or whatever, so there
Yeah.
would be more, options for kids that have dietary restrictions if there was unlimited funding. There would be more gluten-free bread, and so more
Right.
avocado.
And so then right now then, you said you have you're doing tutoring then as well. So and then so is it mostly to places where they need to outsource, is what you were kind of getting at? Or am I reading in between the lines on that? Or
Well,
is it anyone?
it's, well, in terms of my tutoring, it's a lot of the times as parents feel their kids are not getting adequate education from the schools that they're in. So they seek my services to balance that out. So either the teachers are not paying attention to the kids enough, or the kid is undereducated, or the kid is falling behind because of the pandemic, and they were all on computers, and the kid was just not getting it. And so now they got to play catch up. And a lot of the times that I see, the kid is about to fail the class and there needs to be intervention right away. And sometimes the teachers can't really attend to all the kids, right? Because
Right.
don't really have the time to do it, or they're so overworked, right? They can't attend to this one kid. And so that's where I come in with the tutoring services to make up for those gaps. So it's
So,
not so much the school, it's because of the schools, well, some schools, not all schools, but it's because of and also you have those kids that really need one-on-one, because the group format in a school doesn't work all the time.
yeah.
So it's because of those flaws that are in the school system that people seek my tutoring services.
So do you think it could be partially different learning styles, and then the schools are only really addressing one learning style, and if you don't fit into that box, you're gonna get left behind, they don't know what to do, and then they come to you? Or how does that work? Or do you think that's like the case, or do you think,
Um,
or is it?
Supporting one learning style, I think they're getting a little bit better with introduction of special education services by just, in order to address those different learning styles. But then it's also flawed in that you're categorized as you're automatically kind of thrown into special ed, unfortunately. So you have the kids that really need special education, right? And then you have
Right.
those that are just, you're not getting what I'm saying, I'm going to refer you to special ed. So
So that, do you think that there should be some third alternative that's not special education, but not the regular class, something that would be sort of an in-between? Because I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's ever been that, if there's
I
just
don't
been
know. I don't
special
know
ed or
because
not special ed.
I don't know if a third option would help, because the schools are working in a group format, right?
Right.
So it's like you have to, when you're teaching people in a group, it has to be kind of, this is what we're learning and this is how I'm gonna teach it. So there has to be a standard way of teaching and a standard way of learning. And if for the convenience of a group. So if you have the one kid that's like, I'm not picking up what you're saying, the group format is going to be hard for them. And so, a lot of the times they may stay after class, or be placed in special ed, or be where they can get those, or they're likely to get those one-on-one services, or they're referred outside, right? So
Right.
I think there's flaws to a group format, and that you're not addressing those kids with the individual needs. So in terms of a third option that's not special ed, maybe not a third option, but more tutoring, maybe in-house. So so maybe you don't meet the criteria for special ed, but you need extra assistance. So, I'm gonna refer, more after school programs, more in-house tutoring, more assistance, but not necessarily um, special education. So I don't
So
know,
that,
a third option, maybe not a third option, but just alternative options.
and so then
Uh,
are the schools referring you, or referring out to you, or like,
Some
um,
I'm working on it. I'm
sure.
working on getting into the schools, but a lot of my work is, well, the way I get to parents is word of mouth, starting off with a few and then they tell friends. So a lot of it is word of mouth and social media presence, and more recently podcasting has helped as well. But I'm working on the schools, right?
Right.
Because I think if schools had the unlimited funding, then they would hire tutors to come to the school. But a lot of them don't. So they have to go. What they do is they tell their parents that your kid needs additional academic assistance. We recommend that you find a tutor, right? So they put it
Right.
on the parent to find one. But a lot of the times, schools have lists of tutors where they say your child needs additional assistance. We don't have it. Here's a list of tutors, which I'm working on getting on. I'm trying to get on the list. But I think most of the time they tell the parent, your kid needs a tutor. It's up to you to find one.
So
So
what happens when they can't pay it?
I mean, I unfortunately can't take them because my clients are private pay.
Right.
So I wouldn't be able to take them, but they can always go to a library. Libraries, they have homework help programs, so they can always do that.
Oh,
And again, it might be the group format, but it's either one-on-one or a group format, but it's a smaller group. So there's the homework help programs in your local library. There's or leaning on your own community. Do you have a cousin that can tutor? Do you have an aunt or an uncle that can tutor? Talk to a friend that can tutor. So leaning on your community. What else? A lot of after school programs in schools have tutors as part of their staff, so they can always go to an after school program. What else? And there might be tutors that'll do it cheaply, but it's probably like the high school kids that want an extra dollar, so there it might be 15 an hour, 20 an hour, right?
right.
But so there are free resources. You'll have to find them and you'll have to commit to them, but there are free resources and there are cheap resources. You'll have to do the work and you'll have to find it, but they are out there. And
And
education is an investment. It's a time investment. It's also a financial investment, but it is an investment.
yeah. And so, so then what is the end goal? Is it to get them to have a different learning style, or is it to just tutor them until they're good and then cut them loose, or is it to help them until they're out of school, or what's that look like?
The end goal of who? What do you mean? The end goal of who?
Of you.
My end goal. Well, my end goal. I mean, my end goal is for students to be better than where they were before. So I always encourage parents to stick it out with tutoring as long as possible, and not fall away. But if it's a financial issue, as long as you're better where you were before, I think that's an improvement right there. So,
Right.
and I've seen it where the kid is about to fail to now, they're passing, maybe it's whatever the goal is. So if your kid was just getting 60s and 65s, and then now they're getting a 75, that's an improvement, right?
Right.
If the kid was barely turning in their homework and now they turned in half of their homework, that's an improvement. right? So, if the kid is not showing up to class and now they're showing up a quarter of the time, that's an improvement, right? So
Right.
the goal is to be better than where you were before, even if it's a little bit. But
Yeah.
but the more you stick out with the tutoring, the better, right? You want to keep these kids on track, as long as possible. But but if there's always like well, not always, but a lot of the time it's a financial issue, or sometimes the kid just like, I just can't stand school and learning, and I just want to break, So yeah, so whatever it is, I think in that moment the goal is to be better than where you were before, even if
So
it's
I'm sorry. So what happens there if the kid just doesn't want to do school and doesn't really see a want to do better? Is there the push to, like, from the parents to, have you try to get them on that track, or is it to open them up to, you know, different ways that they're, that they could go some alternative schooling, or, maybe like what are they called? Uh, Not a trade school, but what, I don't remember what they're called in high school, the equivalent of a trade school.
you mean the
Yeah,
alternative
like an
high
alternative
school.
school. Yeah.
Um, well, it's important to figure out why they don't want to learn. Um, there could be a lot of underlying issues. So I don't want to give like a specific answer. There could be a lot of issues under there.
Sure.
Is it a mental health issue? Is something going on in the home? A lot of the times that I see, it tends to be an undiagnosed learning disability. Um, it's there can be a lot of reasons behind it. Maybe they don't like the school, right?
Right.
Um, or it could be bullying. Bullying is another thing. So, it's important to figure out the underlying causes of it. So it's a good idea to complement tutoring with psychotherapy. Um, but I think if you make learning fun enough and interesting enough, they want to learn. So, and if the kid feels safe to learn, they do. Um, so it's not so much making learning fun, although work, but that's not. I personally don't see that as the goal to make learning fun. The goal is whatever the kid wants. So if the kid is um like, I have one kid right now, like he's behind on his homework, and the mom is like, you need to get all your homework done, you're not doing it. And I mean, I suspect a little learning disability there, but he doesn't want to do it, and he just wants to play video games all day. He wants to be left alone. I'm there because the mom is like, you're getting it done. And he's like, I don't want to, I don't want to do it. I just want to play video games all day. And I was working with him in the beginning. I mean, he was going along with it, but eventually he got frustrated, and he and the mom were arguing, and I took time off, and then the mom called me back the week after and wanted me to come in. And so, she told me that she and the son had a long talk. And when I spoke to the kid, so I changed my direction with him. So I said, it's not so much do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. It's okay, let's make a goal, right? So how many the goal was for him to catch up on his missing homework. So let's make a goal, right? How many homeworks do you think you can do in a day? And he said, okay, I can do 2. Let's make a goal, right? So every time that I'm here, you're going to do 2 homeworks. So not we're going to get all of it done. We're going to do a little bit every time. And he said, okay. And so whenever I came, he did the 2. He did the 2. Sometimes a little bit under 2, but then as time went on, he was doing 2.5. He was going up to 3. And so I said, you're meeting your goal, right? So you always want to acknowledge improvement. You're
Yeah.
meeting your goal. You're beating your goal. This is great, right? Because now the kid is seeing, hey, I'm actually accomplishing something, right? So, I see when he started going up to 3 homeworks, I was like, do you think you can go up to 3 now? Because you always want to challenge them. He was like, no, let's stay to 2. Okay. And so maybe a few months in, he was doing 3s and slowly going up to 4s. And so I said, all right, I noticed you're doing a lot more than before. Can we raise the goal up to 3 homeworks? And because he felt confident enough, he said, yes, I'm going to raise the goal to 3 homeworks. Okay. And that's what he was doing. So I think it's what does the kid want? So the mom wants him to, I want him to catch up on his homework and, and the kid is like, I want to play video games all day. Okay. So let's do let's do this tiny thing. And when we do that, then you can go back to your video games. Right. So it's meeting the kid where he's at, in my case. So basically it's, the parent wants the kid to improve and do the homework and all that good stuff, right? But then the kid wants something different. Okay, so let's meet the kid where he's at. And when you do that, you'll see that they'll improve, and they'll improve on their own. And then it's their self-esteem that builds because they're meeting that small goal, and then they just keep going and going and going. So all that to say, I think the goal isn't necessarily I want my kid to love learning. The goal is, what do they want to take from it? So if it's like, well, I want to play video games all day. Okay, well, listen, let's do this little bit and then you can go back to your games, right? So do this, let's do 1 homework and then you can go back to your games. And then, I noticed you keep doing the 1. You think we can go up to 2, right? So do the 2 homeworks and then you can go back to your games, right? I noticed you're doing the 2. Great. Can we go up to 3? Okay, so let's do 3 and then you can go back to your games, right? Well, you're doing 3. Can we go up to 4? Okay, let's do 4 and then you can go back to your games, right? And then they realize, I'm meeting a goal and I feel good about myself because I'm meeting a goal. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do for school. And my mom is not yelling at me anymore, which is another thing. So my mom is not yelling at me anymore, and my teachers aren't yelling at me anymore, and I'm not in detention anymore. And you'll see things improve, and then they'll actually go up on their own. So a lot of it really is self-esteem as well. So basically it's not so much what the parent wants, but I mean, it is at the end of the day, but it's meeting, it's really what the kid, let me watch what I say. But I think it is at the end of the day what the parent wants, but with a slight twist. So it really is meeting the kid where he's at or she's at.
And so are you working with everybody in person? Are you doing any Zoom or anything like that with them? Or how does that work?
It's hybrid. It's a mix. So myself personally, I do, because I also have 3 tutors under me. The 3 tutors under me are strictly virtual, but myself, because I tutor under my own company, I do a mix. So some are in person, some are virtual.
So you can get kids from all over the world, right? To come to you.
Yes. Well, right now, I'm sticking to the United States, but I am open to people all over the world. So.
And then how are they going to find you? How are they going to find you if they they're wanting to, or when they're wanting to.
Yeah, so my website is www.stepaheadtutoringservices.com. They could also find me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Eventbrite, WhatsApp, and YouTube. So just search A Step Ahead Tutoring Services, and I will just pop up right there on social media. I also have a podcast called Hot Topics. So you can, again, type in A Step Ahead Tutoring Services in your favorite podcast platform, and I will pop up. Just look up Hot Topics and look for the pencil logo, and the pencil logo with the gray and black tip at the bottom, and that is my company there on your podcast. So you could check us out on your favorite platform. And yeah, that's it. So
Okay.
all this information, of course, is you can find on the website. Again, is www.stepaheadtutoringservices.com.
Yeah, I'll throw that in the show notes and everything. And so yeah, there'll be links, and yeah, go check it out. Get in there. Yeah, helping someone learn is something that's invaluable for anyone. Yeah, I mean, you got to learn one way or another. And if you could use some help, you should do it. So
Holler at me. Come at me.
holler at Gabrielle. And so that might be the title of this one. So yeah, Gabrielle, thank you so much for coming on and getting to talk with you, and getting to know more about you and what you do and everything. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and have a great rest of your day. And we'll talk soon. Okay.
All righty, no problem.
All right. All right. That's Gabrielle Crichlow. So check her out. I'm gonna put the links down there. And you guys, like, share, subscribe, do everything. Oh, some nice pit stains going on. So you guys know about pit stains. It's still only, I guess, this afternoon now. So afternoon pit stains, sitting here up in the podcast studio. But yeah, you guys check out other great shows here on the Quantum Global Broadcasting Network, such as When the Gloves Come Off, the Thinking Man's Pro Wrestling Podcast. This is It with Lizzie and Say by the Ben. Like, share, subscribe, comment, and do interact. I'll interact right back. And this show has been sponsored by Stoner Eats Productions, Fred Ben Savage as Fuck, Hardcore Entertainment, Hypnosis is Great, SuckEmUp.org. And that is the show, man. Boom.
It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker. It's Rusty Diamond, motherfucker.
Ernest!
Yes, Pee-wee.
You brought the snacks, right?